All right, everyone, welcome. We are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Rumble, and Telegram. I think Twitter not so much right now. There's a problem with their live plugin. I don't know what's going on with that, but I think I'm going to be switching to Streamlabs next month, and that should resolve that issue. Because I'm paying way too much right now for this restream service, but I think Streamlabs is a good solution. I'm sorry. On the side note, folks, today we're going to be talking about the water situation and what the MSM in Flint, Michigan is not telling us, and what the problems therein are relating to the lawsuit, and what the actual issue is, and why we're not getting any headway with that. And we're going to be talking about solutions. We're also going to be talking about another guardianship corruption case that's involving Tabitha Fenn. It's her story, and she's also going to be telling us about her the water situation over the last 10 years, what the real issue is. We're going to be getting to some of those issues so we can actually come up with some solutions, folks, because there's so much we're not being told and so much context we don't even know about because of the complicity of the mainstream. And that's a problem. And a lot of these complicit lawyers are a problem too. And I think we're going to be getting into some of the nitty gritty of that tonight. I think it'll be a great show for our viewers and for people in general, because people need to know this kind of stuff if we're going to fight it. So with that being said, let me read our disclaimer and we will begin. Can you hear me okay, Tabitha? Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, cool. The views expressed on the show are expressly the views of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views, beliefs, or opinions of News4Us.World, its hosts, broadcasters, or affiliates. Remember, folks, always use your own discernment when viewing. We encourage our viewers to think for themselves. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and we are going to be talking to Tabitha Fenn today. And I want her to tell her story on this whole Flint water crisis situation over the last 10 years, and why we don't have any real solutions for the water yet, one, but namely, why don't these people have any solution for recompense that's owed to them because of it? So with that being said, why don't you go ahead and well, I want to my mother was born and raised in Flint, first off, and so this is kind of like one of those fights that hits home for me in that context. And so I think people need to know what's going on in these places when that most people have no clue about. And I think we need to know these details. So why don't you begin, Tabitha? Go ahead and start, and we'll listen, and then we'll ask a couple questions after you tell it.
Sure.
20 minutes. But go ahead.
Most people can view it online. They give you a timeline of when this happened. In 2014, they switched from the Detroit water system to the Flint River as a temporary fix until the KWA pipeline was supposed to be put in place. When they switched the water, they decided not to add corrosion control, which keeps lead from leaching into your pipes. So to save $100 a day, they poisoned 100,000 people. And this is 2014.
That's ridiculous.
In 2015, that's when the government's like, oh, we got a problem. We need to do something. And that's when everybody was able to contact our government officials and start talking and try to have, open communications and transparency. Well, in 2015, we were also notified that we not only were we poisoned, but we also were poisoned not just with heavy metals, but bacterial. We were told to boil our water, which leaked out THHMs, which is a cancer-causing agent. So we were not only dealing with lead, we were dealing with cancer-causing chemicals being released through the vapors of heating or boiling our water. Then if that wasn't bad enough, we were hit with Legionnaires. Okay, Legionnaires were killing people. They said it was walking pneumonia, whatever, or however you say the word, I'm sorry. And wound up just devastating the city of Flint. And we were told to relax, drink the water, it was okay, it was safe, yada, yada, yada. Well, in 2016, President Obama, I think he was president, no, 2016, we all filed a lawsuit. A lot of people started it. It just rolled on from there. I was one of the very fortunate ones to speak with Dr. Luray of Obama's response team and got to ask questions of what the hell's happening. I was more concerned at that time, not with the lead, but with the behaviors that we were going to see from being poisoned. And when I spoke with her, she gave me the vague federal response. Well, it causes criminalistic behaviors, cognitive impairment, just a lot of damaging mental health issues. And so I was
Wow.
like,
I did not know
yeah,
that. Wow.
yeah.
It make now that in retrospect, considering what they looks like they want in these cities, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that they just went along nilly-willy and allowed that to be, oh, well, we're not, don't worry about it, people, nothing to see here. Well, that makes perfect sense because they wanted that kind of behavior. All these motherfuckers are insidious, aren't they? Excuse my language.
You're
Go
okay.
ahead, continue.
So as I was watching my 5 and 6-year-old grow, I started noticing problems. Now, mind you, my kids already had pre-existing mental health. My little guy, my youngest, he's already got cognitive problems. So add that 10 times harder on him. You take him. Sorry, I'm gonna get real emotional because I'm still pissed.
No, you're fine.
He was
You're
very
absolutely justified in your emotionality because these bastards have done beyond fucking what's even forgivable or even fathomable in a lot of cases, and it's justifiable rage. And you have every right to feel
well.
that way. And I
My
imagine
little guy.
a lot of people feel that way, and I think it's important that the motion be showed because people need to know this is affecting real people.
Yeah, I mean, he went from a very sweet, loving kid to a very aggressive, out of control, impulsive. Um, I hate to use the word, but monster. Like, I want my kid back. Um, and now I'm watching this kid develop into something that's not even his fault, and he gets punished for it. Mind you, what they did to our children, they're not getting punished for it. They're not receiving any kind of punishment. We have watched our children in 10 years go from kids we've known to kids we don't know. And in this time frame, I almost lost my son Andrew, who is now 15 by the grace of God, due to a foreign doctor, which I'm so thankful for her. And it was not Dr. Mona Tisha, by the way. I'll get to that in a minute. But this doctor saved my son's life. We think he got Legionellas, and he almost died on me. And I rushed him to Hurley, and they said it's going to be a 10-hour wait. My kid was lethargic in my arms. Like, I was watching my son die in my arms. And I rushed him to McLaren, and they're like, it's a 16-hour wait. And all weekend from Friday morning to Monday morning, mind you, you guys, when your kids are sick, it's scary enough. My son stayed with a temperature of 103, and I couldn't break it no matter what. No matter what I tried, Tylenol, ibuprofen, no matter what I tried, what I was told to try, it didn't break his fever. I was watching my son die right before my eyes. And I took him to my doctor, and he was pale as can be. He was almost starting to turn gray. It was very horrific. And I laid him on the table, and I said, I don't care what the hell you got to do. Give him whatever you need to give him. Save his life. And mind you, I'm sitting there holding on to my youngest hand, and my daughter's bawling her eyes out. And I was like, whatever you do, do it. And she gave him some medicine, and like the next day, you had never known he was sick. You would never have known that he was on death's door. And she saved his life. And now my kids, they're 14 and 15. My daughter is 21. She was 12 when she was poisoned. And the problem I was having during this water crisis was the way that the school was handling these behaviors. And they kept saying, oh, we've never seen it before. When in fact, ladies and gentlemen, let me educate you back on history. Lead was first discovered back in tin cans, back when they started canning food back in, I think, the 1900s, maybe even the 1800s. When
Yeah,
they
that sounds
started
about
canning
right. Like
food.
I know it was back in probably the late 1800s, I think, if I remember correctly, according to my history. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was in the solder through the cans, and it was causing mental conditions. Well, they didn't know back then of all the problems we know now, or the labels, so they like to call it.
Right.
So you take all that knowledge from lead from back then, you can't tell me they didn't know what lead was going to do to our kids. So now my daughter is 21.
They know damn well what it can do. And the fact that they didn't do anything about it and they cut corners like they did just speaks volumes to their intent, in my opinion.
Well, what we've seen from 2014 to now is behaviors of aggressive behaviors. My youngest and my oldest has knocked out walls in my house from hitting my walls, which they've never done prior to the water crisis. Like, I can show y'all, like, I can send you records and everything, showing this wasn't a problem. Well, the schools were isolating my children. The schools were restraining my children. Like, who the hell does this?
Right.
They were locking them in rooms that look like jail cells. I have my YouTube channel. I don't get on it no more after I posted what I posted. But if you Google my name or YouTube my name, Tabitha Fenn, I talk about, just the little events that was happening during the water crisis. And I show you guys a room that the Genesee Intermediate School District, the county, everybody has these intermediate school districts, but that they locked my daughter in a room that looked like a jail cell when she didn't act the way they wanted her to. Oh yeah, it gets worse. I had a
it does not surprise me. I've heard this story for so many different people in these cases. It's so fucked up, dude, but they are. I mean, just like, and they're not even, they're doing this to kids that don't deserve this shit. They're doing this to fucking break them down, folks. It's fucked up, but it's straight insidious what they're doing. They don't give a fuck about these kids. They only care about the freaking money and the incentivization they get through the grant freaking money. Sorry, that it pisses me off that they're doing this to these damn kids. It's so fucked up. Excuse my language, but go ahead, continue. But you're right. I can confirm that that's the case.
What they started doing is drugging these kids. And when I say drugging, mind you, I'm not against medicines, but I am against psychiatric medications for several different reasons. Most psychiatric medications are neurotoxin drugs. If you do your homework and look up the FDA's thing on psych meds, 90% of them cause suicidal thoughts. So they put my daughter.
I can speak to that, just having been a guinea pig for the pharmaceutical industry as far as having attention deficit disorder. And when I was a kid, Tourette's, of course, was a little bit more severe, but as an adult, you outgrow it. But they put me on medications at 9. I didn't get a choice in the matter. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I mean, I never would wish that on anybody, but I went through 4 years of constant depression just while they were trying to find the right combination of meds that worked, which that speaks volumes to what you're saying.
Right. Well, and my daughter's history is kind of like really scary for any parent, because my daughter was a Hurricane Katrina victim. Of course, she suffered that trauma of losing her things. And then, of course, it went into some other BS and stuff. And, she was taken and put in foster care and all this stuff. And then she was drugged. And when I say drugged, she was given psychiatric meds that could have killed her. She had a psychiatric break at the age of 8. So you take these steps, and then you look at what happened in the Flint water crisis, and you're just like, how the fuck is she even alive? Sorry, my language.
No, you're fine. No, that's what I like to call justifiable rage.
I wish there was justifiable rage, because that we're talking about this water crisis thing. Right. So yeah, everybody knows that we sued the state, but we didn't just sue the state of Michigan. We went after the EPA. We went after 2 engineering companies. We went after McLaren. We went after different entities in this. And we went after the governor. I don't know why we didn't go after the lieutenant governor or anybody else. But we went after some people. We went after the head of DHS, Nick Lyons. We went after them all. And yet they're still not in jail. They're not in jail. And my thought and theory in this, and this is going to sound horrible, and please forgive me, but I would love to have them be hooked to an IV from the fucking Flint River. There's that word. Sorry.
That would be a
You
great.
know,
That's a great idea. Like
and just
considering
pump
what
them full
they're
of the water.
responsible for. I mean, like we don't have any accountability on any front, folks. This is bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm calling it. It's bullshit. And if it's this bad and they're just getting away with it willy-nilly, then when the fuck are we going to start standing up and say, no, we're not going to allow this. This has to stop. And we want accountability and we want it fucking now. Excuse my language. The cursing I think I was referring to is the result. It is justifiable right in and of itself, just from the realization that we are not all as angry as you and me are on this situation. Why are we not all united? Right. And then, so that cursing, folks, comes as a result of that frustration. So that's, in that context, I think is justifiable rage. For me, it is anyway.
Well, what's scary about this is with the water crisis and the lead poisoning. Okay, you got a chemical toxicity now sitting in your children, and children's brains are still developing till the age of 24. Okay. Their brains are now being chemically changed. Okay. We don't know how. We're not, we don't know what's really going to be the end of this.
Right. We don't have any historical context to know how it's going to affect them. Why would we even do that? Like, if we don't know, but they don't care. Look what they did with this whole freaking, CV-19 bullshit. They didn't freaking test anything, right? Did they? Go ahead, Tabitha. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Sorry, I'm kind of dealing with my child.
No, you're fine.
Can hear in the background.
Oh, it's okay. No worries.
Severely lead poisoned. Okay, so let me give you some numbers. One of the numbers is 13.46. That was found in my youngest child. That is in his bones. That is the lead level.
Wow.
That is in my child's bones.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
Now, mind you, it's higher than hazardous toxic waste readings.
What was that number one more time? I'm going to look it up and bring it up on a screen share for our viewers because I think they need to know how bad this is.
It's 13.46. That the FDA, the federal government, says 5 is like the worst. So go figure. And you're talking about a kid that already had challenges, a kid that was already there. But let me get back to the drugs. So you're taking a chemical toxicity and you're giving them a neurotoxicity to treat a chemical toxicity. Now, what the hell do you think is going to happen? Now, mind you, we're only halfway through the 20-year marker. In 20 years, we will know the full effects of lead. It can cause liver failure, heart failure, lung failure. It can shut your brain down. It can cause paralysis. It can cause cognitive impairment. It can cause aggression. I mean, I urge your listeners to look up what lead can do to the human body.
I have up here on the screen share. I know you can't see it, Tabitha, but I'm going to read some of this for you because I'm sure you.
Sure.
So the reading, it looks like a reversed U, maybe I'm not sure what that symbol is exactly. What that refers to, but it's by I think it's deciliter, micrograms per deciliter, I believe, is the measurement they go by. So according to this, it says normal results. Okay, so are typically less than 10 micrograms per deciliter in adults or 0.48 micromoles per liter in the lead of blood. In children, normal levels should be less than 5 deciliters per, and then 0.24 for micromoles. So that's what it says on US or UCSFhealth.org. And so and you said your son was at like 13 something, right?
13.46.
That's way above the average, folks. That's lead poisoning right there. Okay.
Yep.
And that's because of the Flint water crisis, folks. And we still have no solution to that issue right now with the fallout of that and how it's affecting everybody as a result of the corruption and how they didn't do the corrosion resistant plating on the pipes. Like, to really just save $100, they're going to put all the kids' lives in jeopardy. That's so messed up.
Yeah, they well, here's what they're doing. Here's the end result. So lead mimics psychiatric disorders. Hear me again. It mimics. Your
Yeah.
child does not have psychiatric problems. It mimics it. Okay. So now your kid is being treated with psychiatric drugs for something that is really not needed.
That's what they want, though.
Now,
I
yeah,
think.
well, yeah, because right now our country is so gun ho on this whole mental health, and everybody's got to be on meds and take this for depression and take this and do this and do that. And the thing about it is, what I have personally learned from my life traveling and from this water crisis and my experience as a survivor of Katrina, it's just about environment and people. It's about the support that you get. It's about having somebody, to lean on and go, hey, it's going to be okay. Now, mind you, I've
Community.
been frightened. Yeah, community. Well, our community is being pulled by racism right now. So not only, excuse me, have we faced a water crisis that we've all been damaged in, now they're dividing us by race.
Yeah, they absolutely are trying to do that. I can see that clear as day. It's pretty obvious to me. Like, look at how they're trying to, like, oh no, this person. No, dude. I ask you, who in fact are the real racists? Are it the ones that are accusing the others of being racist, or is it the ones that are, or is it the ones that are that they're claiming are? And I would ask you this question. I was brought up to respect every single human being and treat others how you want to be treated, regardless of their skin color and race. And that's how I was brought up. And so I
Exactly.
ask you, consider the possibility that these people in power are projecting what they are actually, in fact, themselves on the rest of us. Because I think they're the freaking racists, if you ask me. Look at how they're acting. They're acting like freaking Nazis in a lot of cases, and they're using Nazi-esque tactics. You know?
Well, the thing that breaks my heart is my kids, again, grew up in the South, grew up in the North, and they never knew what racism was because I never taught it.
Right.
Just like you said, I taught my kids, you treat people how you want to be treated, period. And for 9 years, I've been outcasted by my own community. I have had to deal with this by myself. Every time I talk about it, people would, shun me and tell me, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're uneducated, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, you know what? You don't know half the shit that I know. You don't know the corruption that I've seen. You don't know what I went through. And I think to all your fellow readers out there, I don't care what your story is because we all have one. I care how we can come together and stop doing this division and stop, because no matter what happens in this world, we're going to need each other because the government is tearing us all apart and they're hurting us, and we're allowing it to happen. We're allowing this to go on. I mean, can you imagine you're trusting the government and all of a sudden you're told that now you're poisoned? Your life has just been put on a ticking time bomb. Been put on
Yeah.
a ticking time bomb. Can you
Absolutely.
imagine somebody coming to you and saying, hey, Stephen, you've got X amount of years to live.
Right.
And you're only a kid and you're thinking, what did I do? What did I
Right.
do
What
to
did I do to
deserve this?
deserve
Why?
this? Yeah. What did
Right. And why did my
and the truth is
parents,
they didn't do anything to deserve this. This is because of corrupt officials that have allowed this to happen and allowed this to get so bad. And that, how
my
do you
son,
explain that to a kid? How do you explain? You can't.
when my daughter came to me, and I'm going to get emotional again this fucking sucks,
Okay.
sorry.
It's perfectly fine.
My daughter goes, Mom, am I going to die? And I said, no, baby, you're not going to die if I can help it. And she goes, Mom, will you stop them from hurting us? And I said, honey, I'll do whatever the hell I need to do. I said, I'll make it stop somehow. And I've taken my case to DC. I've taken my case to the government. And I've taken my case to everybody. And right now, I need America to go, this is going to stop. Like, this is going to stop. You're not going to poison none of us again. We're going to find out what's in our water. We're going to find out what's in our soil. We're going to find out what you've done to us.
Right.
And start doing your research, and then take your research and slap it on the desk of your state representative and go, you have some explaining to do, and I want answers now.
Damn right. We want answers for sure.
And it's going to take all of us. The answers are there. The proof is out there. Just like Hinkley, California, and God, I can't think of that lawyer's name to save my life. Oh, there you go. Erin Brockovich. She fought for them people. That little law firm fought for them people. And we have massive law firms here in Flint. We have big, huge ones from New York and California. Now, come on, you can't tell me that these lawyers are sitting there and have more access to information than we do, and we're finding this out. Come on. Hello, put 2 and 2 together, guys. Put 2 and 2 together.
It's not rocket science, people. It's common sense, folks. If it acts like a duck, walks like a duck, this duck is probably a duck.
Right. And when you have your children look at you and ask you, Mommy, am I going to die? No parent. I don't care what race, what religion, no parent should have their child come up to them and say, Mom, am I going to die? Can you imagine? Imagine if you're sitting there right now listening to us and you're looking at your children. Imagine them coming to you and saying, Mommy, Daddy, am I going to die? Because the government failed to fucking protect you. Sorry. Forgot to do their job, their oaths that they've taken, that has been for centuries in this country since it was conceived, basically, so to speak. It's always oath and honor to do the honorable thing. This country, these doctors, these social workers, these CPS workers, these teachers, a lot of them have failed their oath to do no harm. And they did harm. And they don't have to pay the price for it because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's called government immunity that I call BS. There should be no government immunity.
It's total BS. Because how are you supposed to hold your officials accountable when there's no consequences for their actions? If anybody needs to be held accountable for their actions, it's these bastards, because they hold positions of authority and influence and have the ability to affect millions of freaking lives. So how are we not holding them accountable? That's what I want to know.
According to Flint, we quote unquote are holding them accountable. If it was up to me, we should have lined them all up in front of City Hall. And all of us should have asked the questions, and they should have been forced to answer.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, anybody can give you a half-ass answer. A real human being is going to say, I'm sorry, what can I do? How do I make this up to you?
How can I help? What can we do to help? Right. Exactly. That's what anybody that actually gives a fuck would ask you that question. If they don't, then they don't give a fuck, obviously.
We've heard in Flint, I'm sorry, I wish I had a penny. Listen to me, a penny. For every time I told my story and everybody says, I'm sorry, I would be a billionaire right now. I can't even tell you how many people and groups and agencies, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Yeah, okay, I'm sure you are. But what you're not saying is, I'm sorry, what can I do to help you? How do I heal you? How do I help you? How do I understand this? That's what we're looking for, or at least I am, is that human understanding and that compassion, because now my kids are facing a world where they can wind up in jail, in prison, because they were poisoned.
Right. And you know, we need. It's like everybody's pigeonholing their whole life, like everything that's going on. They're pretending like it's like if it doesn't affect them directly, then there was nothing. They'll just go along to get along. But I asked them, how is that going to solve anything? We're a community. We are a nation of, at least supposed to be a nation of constitutional laws and inalienable rights. But of course, they're being railroaded by the courts at this time in our history, and we're having to fight that as well. But I would ask them, Are you making the situation better? Or are you just, appeasing and, oh, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. It's out of our hands. Or are you going to actually stand up and fight for these people? Is what I want to ask these officials, because you have the ability to do so. Why are you not? And if you're not, I'm suspecting that you're involved in some sort of corruption somehow. So, it's like, that's how I look at it now. It's like, with how bad we've revealed how bad it really is with the corruption, it's insanity. It's not freaking right.
Yeah.
It's fucked up on so many levels. It's so fucked up.
Well, and here's the kicker to this whole water crisis. So yeah, we're still waiting on our money. April 25th of 2024 will be exactly 10 years to the day we were poisoned. We were told we're going to get our money this year. This is what the lawyers and everybody, social media, everybody been saying. They're getting paid this year. They're getting paid this year. We, as of today, September 23rd, we do not know what the hell is in our future. We do not know, other than we know we're going to face mental health challenges, and we're going to face them alone because we're not in a very tight-knit community where everybody pitches in, everybody helps. We're in a city that's divided, broken, battered, and beaten. We're all angry, and we have turned on each other, unfortunately. And it's like, we just need our kids to know that their country did not forget them, that they weren't forgotten, because not all kids were publicized in the water crisis, okay? Not all kids will ever feel like this country gave a fuck. Sorry. My kids think this country is probably the worst place they've ever lived in. And that's bad. This is their home. My kids are also Native American, and their heritage has just been thrown out the door.
It has. It's bullshit. It's so evil. It's so wrong on so many levels. And it's a real travesty. I've talked to many victims of this kind of corruption, and I don't like to use the word victims. Let's call them sacred warriors or Lovisas in this context, because we try to lift people up, not tear them down. But my point is, you're not the only case that I've heard this from people that are of Native American heritage. I've heard this from Tammy Winkles in her situation in her CPS case, and I've heard this from so many others. It's nothing short of an all-out systemic attempt to hijack our God-given freaking inalienable rights, which are supposed to be endowed upon us in this country, in which we are supposed to hold these officials accountable under the law by those constitutional rights that are spelled out in our constitutions. And but they're just acting like they don't exist, that they don't apply to us. They're acting like, oh, that only applies to them. But they've really betrayed their oath in so many ways. It's so bad and it's so wrong. And we need to somebody's got to hold them accountable. So what is your view? Like, I want to get into what's the issue with the whole lawyer thing? Like, why is it being held up? Why is this all? What can we do? What can we do to get it out there, to really get the truth out there, to force these bastards' hand? Because this is just bullshit. You're going to wait 10 years to get any kind of freaking recompense, and they're still stretching this shit out? That's bullshit. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit.
Well, here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of people that are going to die before they ever see this money. And right now, the money is in a bank, and Michigan is collecting the interest on that $640 million.
Wow.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, they are getting more money. And now, mind you, so Michigan has a law, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell law they're talking about, that if your child wins a lawsuit, you have to put it in a trust or a structured settlement. Now, mind you guys, come on now. The same state that poisoned us, attempted to murder us, kill us, okay, end our very existence, is now telling us we don't have the right to do what we want with the money. whether it's to move out of here, whether it's to help build a better foundation in education, or whether it's to help with mental health or whatever it is. Now, my experience personally that I have dealt with since this mental health, I hate to call it bullshit because it's really not, but how I've been treated about it, to me, it's bullshit. Because, mind you, my husband is dying from this. He could have cancer now. He's lost weight. He's bleeding internally. And guess what, folks? Nobody knows why. My son is very aggressive. He's going to wind up in jail. We have no family around us. We have no supports with us. We have done this for 9 years alone, just our family. And it has torn my marriage up. It is tearing me and my kids apart. It is hurting us. Okay? Now my daughter had a baby. Now I have to get guardianship over my daughter and my granddaughter just to protect them from the state. So I got to ask the state for help and protecting my own kids from them. How the hell is this going to work? The same state that, unfortunately, we're on food stamps, okay? So they're playing a game with that. There's 7 of us in this household. We live off of $500 a month, you guys. Our water bill is $500 a month. Can you imagine?
You're basically paying to get poisoned, is what you're doing in this situation.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. That's fucked up, man. That's fucked up.
And here's another kicker. Do you know that we are paying? Okay, go back and look at the funding that Flint got. I'm sure you can look it up and I'll show you the supposed numbers. But when money started coming into Flint, everybody has gotten money. The city has gotten money. Mind you, they were part of the lawsuit that we sued them. The hospitals have gotten funding. The city workers have gotten funding. Hell, last night, even Flint City Council was talking about how much of a raise they're going to get. We don't even have enough police officers to deal with the mass people that are still here in Flint. We don't even have enough law enforcement. And then the law enforcement is so stretched out and so tired and so drawn out that we get cops with attitudes. And of course, that makes bigger conflict.
So I have up here on the screen the amount in grant money they got over a 5-year period.
Yeah.
100 million, folks. 100 million.
Or better.
Yeah. Well, it says right here.
Now remember,
it says it's up to 116 million, but we know it's probably freaking much higher than that with all the kickbacks going on and shit, how they're not freaking using this to the benefit of the people, obviously.
Right.
I should make you angry, folks. I know it does me. Are we angry?
Another kicker
to do something about it? Because we should be. We all should be. Why aren't we united is what I want to know.
Well, here's another thing. It's your taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
It's your money that you're billing yourself for to support this corruption. It is taxpayer dollars coming in here. Now, here's another thing that you're not going to like. So COVID funds came in here, supposed to help with medical and education and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Flint has taken them funds, they're called ARPA funds here, and bought new vehicles, street maintenance vehicles. Okay. Y'all have heard that governor, the famous Michigan governor, fix the damn roads. Our roads are still not fixed. I encourage people to come to Flint. And please don't drink the water. But just to drive down our streets, they're building uptown, downtown Flint. They're putting in new buildings and got this great culture center and got all this great shit here. But guess what the people are doing?
You know, when I was visiting my aunt and uncle on the last trip we went to in Michigan, we drove by and we went into Flint to just kind of see, because my mom, you know, the house she grew up in, and we went by it, and I can attest to what you're saying. Like it's still really run down, and they're not doing anything for the people at all. They may be doing optics for this. Oh, we're going to build this, and this, but they're really freaking taking the money, folks. They're not helping the people with it. They're pocketing most of it under the guise of, oh, we're fixing these, but they're really not. it makes me so it's frustrating because I go down, when we went down there, it's like it was run down. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't know water crisis things not supposed, didn't they have something out of that? And I was thinking in my mind at the time, I didn't, but now that you put it in context, so yeah, absolutely, they're freaking obviously doing a hell of freaking illegal shit with this grant money and covering it
Well,
up.
here's another thing. There's more money to talk about. So they got federal funding to clean up blight, right? They are not tearing down abandoned houses. There are homeless that come here. They get in these houses and they wind up dying or overdosing.
We
They've
have the
got
same problem here, even in Vegas, and it's like,
yeah.
I mean, the homeless problem has gotten so bad. Like, I can't walk outside to the alley where my car is without seeing at least 2 or 3, 4 homeless people that are digging through the trash at any given time trying to find something to survive off of. One, which is, it's not, they're not, it's not that it's, it's not their fault. I mean, this whole situation, the whole financial situation, it's put a lot of people in this situation in the first place. One, two, you got freaking lack of proper people in authority that are supposed to be upholding our rights, like, in the courts and especially in the police officers too. You don't have any real, like, you have less than you would have, so there's not enough freaking resources to go around to handle everything like there should be. One, and then you also got, like, for example, there was a fire in an apartment building across the way, just right across the street from us. It's boarded up, right? We got this god dang freaking this little freaking RV sitting outside of this place, right? And it's a known freaking, drugging, freaking, they're peddling freaking drugs out here in our neighborhood is what they're doing. But then they're still there. They're squatting in the freaking apartment. They already got served with notice with those orange stickers, when they got freaking reported. But has it been moved? Have they moved their freaking? No, it's still there.
That's the same thing that's going on in Michigan, but let me explain something. So outside of the water crisis, I'm going to kind of alleviate from that for a second because I want to explain this.
Go ahead.
People that are drug addicts don't want to be drug addicts, you guys. They are so emotionally hurt by whatever happened in their life. They're not getting high because it's just a good feeling. They're getting high to kill whatever emotional pain, the trauma that they have endured in their life and can't handle because they don't have family support. There's not community positivity. There's not that support. Growing up on a carnival, I've seen all walks of life of people, from drug addicts to prostitutes to, people that just fell on hard time. I've seen them type of people. But what my dad told me, and I hope I do him proud, and I hope you guys hear me out, treating somebody just with kindness will get you so much further in life than being so negative to people that have endured such trauma. I know society has come out and we're good at calling each other names and all the 5-year-old mentality crap.
I know.
But if you really stop to look at somebody and go, what happened? Just what happened to you? Why? Why did this happen to you? And start being the Americans that we once were. If you look back in our history, there was a time farmers decided, and I can't really pinpoint when in history, but I know it happened. Farmers would start giving their crops to their community, like to their churches. People would go to church and now churches have just become an in and outdoor gateway for whatever. And people have taken advantage of that. But there needs to be family back in America. There needs to be community back in America. There needs to be, we look out for each other. We help each other. Back in the old days, they used to say it takes a village to raise a child. Well,
and it still does.
It's going to take a nation to raise Flint kids. It's going to take a nation to help us raise our children that they've destroyed.
I can attest to the fact that you talk about the drug addicts not wanting to be drug addicts. Like, I mean, let me just explain a little from my own experience with my ex-fiance. You know, like she okay, like everybody, she may, you know, people make mistakes in life, you know, people end up doing, you know, paying for those mistakes, you know, but the thing is that I want to point out is a big problem in our society right now is, you know, people that are incarcerated and sometimes even unjustly, you know, like they don't have proper medical care, period. And one of the things that I want to point out in this context is that for example, she has back problems. You know, she threw out her back and freaking rather than doing their job, what is it called? Washington Corrections Department, Department of Corrections for Women. Yeah, I'm calling you fucking bastards out because you're pieces of shit. They would rather they didn't want to pay or spend any money to give her a proper x-ray to actually fix the problem. They wouldn't give her any medication to help ease, like other than anti-inflammatory, not even anti-inflammatories. They tell her, oh, go get Tylenol from the commissary. But they were happy, they were more than happy to approve her for the freaking Suboxone program. Oh, here, just take this for your pain. And it ruined, you know, in a lot of ways I think that ruined, it freaking was a big cause of conflict for me and her. And it freaking, you know, and ultimately what comes down to is like, you know, what do you do in that situation? Because that's not her fault, that aspect of it. But at the same time, it's like, what do you do when they won't give you proper care for what you really need, but they're happy to get you hooked on this other stuff that they know will keep you stuck in their system? That really pisses me off.
Yeah, that's pretty much kind of where they put our kids in Flint, because who's to say that with the medical issues, because we don't even know yet. We've only seen the mental part of this water crisis. We have yet to see the true physical yet to come of what's going to happen to our kids. How many surgeries are they going to have? How much pain are they going to have to go through physically? I mean, mentally, it's already, I don't know, they haven't done a study, but I kind of wish they would, because I kind of want to know
They should.
how many teenagers have killed themselves because of bullying and because of the water crisis. Now, let me explain something to you guys, and I'll kind of tell you why. My kids don't go to Flint schools. They go to a school outside of Flint. And one girl made fun of my 15-year-old. He's lost all of his teeth because the lead has eaten away at his teeth. So he's lost all the front of his teeth. I can't get no medical. I can't get a oral surgeon or nobody to do the work for him. They have him scattered around here. They're like, oh, we only do this, and you guys take him to another dentist, and you guys take him to this, and you got to. It's so screwed up here.
It's we have there's so many, you know, it reminds, there's so many similarities here. Like it's like, you know, go here for this. Oh, but we don't do that. You have to go here to do that. And then the other part, oh, you have to go here to do that. I'm like, really? What the hell?
Well, this girl started making fun of my son because he had no teeth in his mouth. Like, his front teeth were missing.
Well,
and I mean, there is 6 teeth missing in the front of his top of his mouth, okay?
You know what?
This girl, she comes from Flint.
Go ahead.
Sorry. She comes from Flint. Do you know she called him a toothless white cracker? And I went, and I looked at my son and I said, if you would have hit her, I wouldn't have said nothing. But what did you do? He said, no, Mom, I told the teacher. And believe it or not, Mom, they handled it. The school that my son is going to, they have zero tolerance for bullying, for picking on my kids. But now, mind you, here's another story about Flint schools. Some kids dumped my kids, called them all kinds of racial names and everything, and turned around and pushed my son, my cognitive impaired son, down a flight of stairs. Now, mind you, the cops didn't do shit. I reported it. They didn't do a damn thing. I went to school, and I said, I want to see your cameras. Oh, they weren't on that day. Oh, that's convenient. That's very convenient. So my son,
how convenient
my old, well, yeah, but see that here's the scariest part. So my older son, because they're only 13 months apart, my 2 boys, when he seen that happen, he grabbed the kid, pulled him, and pushed and beat his head right into a wall. Now, do I encourage this? Absolutely not. But to me, it was justified because the teachers, everybody stood around. Everybody's seen it happen. and they wanted to dump my kid because he was a white kid, and this is a black kid.
That's not right
And I'll
either,
look at,
though. You can't do it. Like, it's not fair. Like, look at how they're dividing us, and
but
they're trying
that's
to get
what they're
all the younger kids to
exactly.
freaking think that this is going on and tricking
Yep.
them into doing so. And it's bullshit, man. It's not right. But
Yep.
they're using the younger generations to promote that freaking kind of narrative. And it's, mind you, we know that there are. I'm not saying that there is no racism and that it doesn't exist, because it does, but it's not nearly as, I don't think it's as nearly as widespread as they would have us believe, because look at how they're using it. In my
Yep.
view, I think it's fucked up that they're doing this to the
But
kids.
you see what these kids are going through. Like, you're hearing my story. Look into it. I encourage everybody to find out, ask questions. Tell the school district, ask them why they just got $94 million. Flint schools just got $94 million. They're rebuilding the schools. And in 2014, we had 100,000 people. I think our census says now there's like 75,000. There's not as many people with kids here in Flint, and they're taking this money and they're building the schools instead of educating our kids.
Or instead of solving the freaking the bullying problem, which they should be doing too, which they're obviously not. I mean, you this makes me think that they're using this grant money inappropriately. Like, okay, yeah, that's great, you built a new school and all, but what does that do for the kids that are still being bullied? What does that do for the kids that are still being freaking harmed by this? It doesn't do a damn thing for them, does it?
Your viewers are not gonna like me. It's up to us, the adults, to set the example for our children.
You got it.
Look
No,
at how
I
you
love
act. Look
that
at
you
how
said that,
you
because
treat
you're
people.
absolutely right.
I mean, I'm responsible now for my kids full of rage, full of hate, because I was full of hate and full of rage for what they did to us. But we really, really, really have to watch as a society. Us adults, it ain't our government that's raising our kids, it's our communities.
Yes.
So if you have people, adults, acting like idiots, our kids are seeing that.
Yeah.
Our kids are going, oh, I can act like that and get away with it. Or I can do this and commit this crime and get away with it.
That's the message it sends to them. And that's absolutely the message it sends. And, and so that means it falls on us, folks. We have to step up and start standing up for each other, and defending each other when we see people being wronged in our communities. We have to stand up and say, no, this is my neighbor. You're not going to do this. I don't fucking agree with this. And you are not going to do this to us. And we are going to stand up for each other. And that's what it's going to come. That's what it's going to take, folks. And I don't care what color skin you're, I don't care. We have to stand up for one another as human beings, as individuals, as Americans that all have inalienable rights, no matter what our background is. We all want to be free. And that's the only thing that really should matter at this point. And that's the only thing we really need to agree on, I think, even,
Well, that's another thing that bothers me about this water crisis. How many homeless people did it affect? How many people, how many veterans that are homeless in Flint?
Right.
Hear me out. Veterans, people that took their lives and decided to fight for you to have the freedoms that we're so told we have but don't. And it costed them everything. It costed them their families. It costed them their homes, their careers. It costed them their brains. It costed them their minds. I mean, really sit and think about this. And I'm asking you guys just to hear me out, please. If everybody took in a vet and fought for the VAs to stop being corrupt, because even the VAs are corrupt, and stop treating our men and women who have served this country, whether it's law enforcement, military, our nurses, our doctors, hell, even our teachers. If everybody supported everybody like we did back when America was America, we would not have the corruption, the corrosiveness of what we have today if we just stopped and started treating people with kindness.
That's all it's going to take, folks, is a little bit of kindness and compassion, and he's right. You're right. Absolutely. It's like I'm going to quote a Charlie Chaplin speech from The Great Dictator, and he points this out so beautifully. He says, "More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost." And I think that's really, really good point you make there. And that just says everything right there you need to know. And he's absolutely right, because if we don't have compassion for one another, then what is the point of fighting for anything in this that we have? Because if we're not willing to defend each other, then we don't have a chance, I think.
Well, here's another thought that goes through my head with the water crisis and stuff and what's happened to my kids. You know, we look at these school shootings and, you know, everybody's like, oh yeah, this happened and these parents didn't do this. Do you realize it's not just the parents that caused this kid to snap? It is our communities.
Yeah.
It is society. It is social media. It is movies. It's video games. It's all of us.
It's all of it combined. Yeah.
Yep, we are all responsible for this. And whether you want to go, hey, I wasn't there when he did it, that's okay. Did you
It
just
doesn't
cuss
matter,
out your
folks.
neighbor the other day?
We have all
Yeah,
had a part to play in allowing this to come this far to this point because of the apathy that we've all allowed ourselves to become complacent with.
so what's going to happen when one of our Flint children move to another state? I've already described, you know, the mental attributes that they have because of this. Who's to say? Let's use my kids for example. My daughter, especially, because she has these outbursts that she can't control. She has no control over them. And she has an outburst and says, I want to fucking die. Sorry for the words. But just because she's so frustrated,
Right.
guess what happens to her? They put her in a facility because she's a threat to herself and others. They put her in this facility and they drug her even more and make her feel less of a human, make her feel that her natural feelings, mind you, people, listen to what I'm saying, natural. Your human, basic, natural feelings to think, to act, to speak, to be. Your anger, your hate, or your anger, your happiness, your sad. You know, they're taking our basic life and turning it against us.
They are.
If you're angry, you can be considered, you can one day be in a fight with somebody on the street, just a verbal argument, and all of a sudden you say the words, I'm going to fucking burn your house down. Just out of stupid angerness. Do you know you can be charged with domestic terrorism? They can charge you.
I know. And that's all the excuse they'll need, too.
Years.
You're right. You know, and nobody can take into consideration the fact that, okay, well, put yourself in this person's shoes. If they were being adversely affected by this kind of corruption and nobody was doing a damn thing about it, wouldn't you be freaking angry? I know I would. And I would probably fly up at the handle on several occasions because of it's just so apprehensible that they're not doing anything. And then they're using the fact that when people do get frustrated and call it out, and then they're using that against them too. Oh, hell no. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. But that's what they're doing in a lot of cases, folks. They are. They're trying to paint people that are not actually needing mental health treatment, and they're trying to paint them as if they do to promote their narrative and keep committing the corruption that they're doing. And it's not right. But I've seen that in every one of these CPS and family corruption cases, and even in the guardianship cases and probate cases, they use that tactic a lot.
Yep. And speaking of guardianship, that's what I get to deal with my daughter.
So
can you
go into
imagine
that a little bit? Because I know we talked about the Flint thing for a bit, but I would like to hear a little bit about that situation with what you're facing right now, and kind of give our viewers the context of that angle of your fight and what's going on with that right now.
Okay, so it is tied into the water crisis because of the behavior. So because of the history of my daughter being drugged to be compliant for the school system because they didn't want to deal with, issues. My daughter has gotten to the point to where she's been so drugged that she can't even function. She has a very beautiful little girl that she can't even be a mom to, and she wants to so desperately. I watch this every day in my child. And because she can't, I have to find a way to protect her, and the only way I can protect her in the United States is becoming a guardian. Now, having guardianship can go one of two ways. The judge can either say, yes, I'll let you be the guardian of your daughter, because that would be the most appropriate thing. She's my kid. It's not like I'm doing it for my aunt, my uncle, my brother, cousin, whatever. She's my daughter, and I get two choices. I hope and cross my fingers that the judge gives me guardianship, or the state takes guardianship over her and holds her money and tells her what to do and all the controlling shit that they do, and force her back on drugs that could possibly kill my daughter. It could kill my kid. So this is what I'm faced with come Tuesday morning, is the same state that tried to kill me and my family, tried to kill my daughter, gonna take my daughter and take her rights, whatever little she has left, away from her.
Yeah, and that's
My daughter was in foster care.
Such a travesty that we've allowed as a nation, as a community, to get it for it to get this bad. This is just so messed up on so many levels. What can we do? What can we do in this context? Like, what would put a stop to it? I'm wondering, because this has just gone too far. But continue.
So, I don't know. I'm scared. I'm worried. I'm afraid that mentally, I don't think that I can handle Michigan doing another damn thing to me. I really don't. They got away with poisoning my kids. They got away with physically assaulting and abusing, emotionally torturing my children, bullying my children, bullying my family. I'm not a weak person and I'm not a violent person, but I really am scared that it will have to come down to me pulling every bit of my energy and being as aggressive as I can and fighting the state alone. Because if listen to me, you guys, if the state of Michigan does take my daughter from me, I am going to federal court and I am pressing domestic terrorism charges on the state of Michigan and every agency within it.
As well you should. Because these bastards are guilty of just that. I mean, in a lot of cases, like, look at how they tried to turn that on us as the people and use that against us. And we need to turn it back around on them and call them out on that. I think that might just make them freaking raise a few eyebrows. I think that's a good, solid plan to start with, for sure. Go ahead.
Well, I encourage all of your listeners that are dealing with CPS to look up the FBI's definition on domestic terrorism.
Yes.
So
good idea.
I don't know if you can pull it up.
I can, actually.
But it says,
and I will.
Okay, so if I'm correct, it says to intimidate, coerce, threaten a specific group of people. So let me ask you guys this question, Stephen. Listen to me. Anybody with kids, what does that make them? Parents, right? Parents is a specific group of people because not every person is a parent.
In the heck? Oh my God, dude, this is bad. Okay, according to this definition, which is, wow, if this is their definition, then they are clearly participants in this corruption and this kind of terrorism if they're not doing what they're saying. Look at this. It says domestic terrorism is on the rise. But it says, oh, that's not, why do they always start off with that bullshit? They're trying to promote a narrative. Oh my God, dude. They're trying to make it look like they're the good guys. We know that they're not already. Look at this. I'm just going to go back to the freaking definition I had up here from there. Government Accountability Office, okay? It says domestic terrorism is generally defined by law as involving criminal acts dangerous to human life on U.S. soil that appear intended to coerce a civilian population or influence or affect the conduct of government. Well, that's exactly what these freaking bastards are doing themselves in a lot of cases. How is that being allowed? There you go. We should hit them all with domestic terrorism charges. FBI, DOJ, They're all breaking in on this for sure.
Well, when I looked it up, and I'll probably have to send it to you because I looked
Oh,
up. I went on the FBI's website, and it says to intimidate, coerce, or threaten a specific group of people. Parents are a specific group of people, just like grandparents are a specific group of people. People in poverty are a specific group of people. Think about it, you guys. Literally, logically, try to wrap your head around this and think about it. They're using it, and quote unquote, I called the FBI to clarify, told them I had a disability. You know, I hate the word disability. I swear to God, I hate this word.
I know.
Because
Me too.
it just diminishes a person. Everybody has an ability just because they don't comply with government and what their ability should be.
You know,
But
they call my
anyway,
ADD a quote unquote learning disability, but I see it as a gift because it's you know, the whole big part of that is my OCD, right? My obsessive compulsive, but that makes me the perfectionist that I am. That makes me as thorough as I am. I see that as a gift. I see that as a good thing. But they want to put you in this box, like,
yep.
oh, you're disabled, oh, or you're special, or oh, you're not as smart as the average bear. When in reality, a lot of, you know, like, you can speak to this. You were, you know, and when you were in school, I don't know if you want to, you know, you talk about this on the air, but I will talk about it in the
Oh no,
context of
you're
my own
fine.
experience. You know,
I'm
I'm a
not
former
embarrassed
sped
or
student
ashamed.
myself from Clark County, Nevada. You know, like I was in the sped program, you know, and they put you in this freaking box and they've like, oh,
Mhm.
you're special. Oh, you need special. So you need to calculate. Like they try to make it look like we're freaking retarded. When in a lot of cases, we're a hell of a lot smarter than the average bear, but they don't want anybody else to know that. They want to kick you down, make you look like you're crazy, make you look like you're not smart, like you don't know what you're doing. But I
So
ask
wait,
you, if that were the case, would I be able to do what I'm doing now, folks?
or
No, I
me.
would. I would. Exactly. Exactly.
And here's the funny thing. So when I was younger, and you got to remember, okay, I'm 45, age awareness. um, when I was growing up, it was called slow learning disability. Well, the government said we're not doing that because that's degrading. Okay, whatever. Now they call it specific learning disability, by the way, how they changed the wording. Um, Back then, I had, I forget what they call the cognitive one, but now it's cognitive impaired or comprehension. And now it's called cognitive. It was comprehension disorder. Now it's cognitive impairment. Um, you know, I went to the therapist one day because this water crisis got to me and stuff, and she was talking to me, and she goes, "Well, I see you are cognitive impaired." And I said, "Lady, I am cognitive impaired. I don't understand stupid. I can't comprehend ignorance, and I will not accept the fact that I can never understand them things." And she goes, "Ma'am, I don't like your tone." And I said, "Lady, I don't like where you're trying to put me in this box with these labels when I'm a human being and
Yeah.
I'm having difficulties, period. That's
Yep.
all there is to it. I need a little bit of help. I don't need your condemnation. I need you to do your damn job.
Certainly
And if
don't
this
need
is
their
your damn
judgment
job."
either, do you?
Well, and it was funny because she started pulling the religious card, and God help me, I am religious, but I don't push my beliefs or my
Right.
thoughts on anybody else.
Right.
You know, what I believe in is me, you know.
Right. It's what
And she
works
goes,
for you. And
"Oh,
you know, and people, you have to respect other people's, you know, I can respect, but when you push it on others, that's not okay. You know, everybody
that's
has the
right.
right to believe what
That's
they want and go with what works for them, and that's okay. But nobody has the right to be pushing their own beliefs on each other unless, you know, like that doesn't, no, that's not okay either. And that's where we get a lot of these issues. Everybody thinks that they are holier than thou and that their shit don't stink and they know
yep.
the way. And I'm thinking, oh, you guys are so far removed from even being close to what you should be aware of in that context. And you know, it's just like the same thing. It's the reason we have separation, or we're supposed to have separation of religion from state anyway.
Well, the weird thing about it is, she goes, "I'm a Christian," and I said, "Okay, then." I said, "I'm gonna throw your knowledge back in your face. It says in your Christian Bible that thou shalt not judge, and here you are judging me. So you're a hypocrite,
Right.
and you can take your job and you can stick it." And she goes, "Well, you need therapy." I said, "No, I need people to stop pissing me off."
Yeah.
And I
I would
hung
have
up
said the
the
same thing because
phone.
that's exactly what it is. It's the frustration from being so pissed off because everybody thinks they know better and everybody wants to put their 2 cents in. Oh, well, I know that. It's just like the whole attitude that some people have. It's like, what? Get up your high horse. and start doing something to actually help us, like kind of deal is like how I look at it. You know, it's like it's frustrating. It can be very
I
frustrating.
guess I was talking to an officer today. We went to an event here in Flint that I think is really cool. You know, Flint's not all horrible, but you know, they have a thing called Touch a Truck here. It was pretty phenomenal. And they get a bunch of law enforcement officers out there, different departments. They have their vehicles. They show off, you know, what they do and everything, and fire departments and you know, EMS and stuff like that. And one of the things when I was talking to this officer, he goes, you know, he said, you need to become a cop. And I said, give me one damn good reason that I should sacrifice my life for an ungrateful nation. And he looked at me and he goes, wow. And I said, what's wrong? And he goes, you know, I never thought about that. I said, well, think about it. There's too many people that take it for granted that cops do get killed. They do
They
get in
do.
the domestic violence situations. They put
You
their
know,
lives
right.
into messes that the average person be like, oh hell no, they can kill each other, go on about your business, you know.
Right.
But
And you know, and what it's
they
doing is it's flushing out all the good cops from our
it
society
is
as a result. And now we're stuck
it
with
is
freaking even worse ones that are all corrupt. What is that going to do? It's going to make shit worse, folks. Why are we not acknowledging that this corruption still freaking exists? And you know, I mean, yeah, there is corruption. There's absolutely freaking corrupt cops. We know this for a fact, just from the Hilligas case alone. What we've seen, you know, like with that exposure that we've been covering, you know, and I'm not referring to Stu at all in any case, way, shape, or form. He's an actual freaking honest citizen and freaking member of the community that does uphold the actual law, unlike these racketeering courts. But like you're right, it's freaking it's bullshit because you know everybody wants to talk about, oh, we're going to solve this with this and this, but you know, no, they're not solving it. They're what they're actually doing is getting away with more corruption now, I think, and it's really harming the society as a whole because what is it making? Like you said, it's flushing out all the good ones.
right. And the thing about it is, it's you look at these cops, like the one cop I was talking to, he went from being a Flint officer to a U of M college officer. And he says, we don't get paid enough. And I said, you know, I said, if I could hire Flint cops at $50 an hour, just because of the environment that we're in right now, just because of our situation we're in right now, I said I would. But the thing about it is, I said, everybody, when you look at them, our society thinks they're owed something. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, because I know I'm probably hearing some people go, oh, she's done lost her mind. Listen to what I'm saying. Everybody is owed something, okay? Everybody is owed the world. But you got to be willing to sacrifice, bust your ass,
Yep.
provide for your family, protect your family, honor your family, and honor your community and raise these kids. And when I say raise these kids, go out in your community, and if you see a kid that you know that has a hard time, you know, may have a difficult life right at this point in time, just go out and buy them a drink, you know, a soda. Don't be doing alcohol, people. I did not encourage that. But I'm just saying, go buy them a hamburger, go buy them a soda. Say, hey, kiddo, what's wrong? How can I make your day just a little better?
Right.
Or what can I do? Because these kids, this generation, like my kids, they are spoiled. They think everything needs to be handed to them.
You know,
They think
you're
that they're
right.
entitled.
It's so bad. It really is. I mean, just what my sister did with our car in the last couple months is evidence of that alone. Larry Baker says, "You got, what can it's what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you." And he's absolutely right, folks. It comes down to being of service to self or being to service to others. Now, in my case, I'm choosing to be of service to others because I want to give back to my community, and I see this corruption every day, and I want to help people. And so the news for us is my way of doing that. But he's absolutely right. It's not what your country can do for you; it's what you can do for your country because it's our country is made up of us. It's by we the people. And the only reason that it's gotten this corrupt is because we've allowed it to get this corrupt, folks. We're the ones to blame because we've allowed it. It behooves us to do the work and take it back. And we have to. We have to. Go ahead. I'm done. But I wanted
Yeah,
to say that because I think it's important that people think about that.
It is. Okay, so we're only gonna get heat for saying this. But here's a good point. Trump said, quote, let's make America great again. When he said again, at what millennia or century or every 10 years or whatever, what the hell is he talking about? Unless he's talking about the days of old where people went to work,
Right.
families stayed intact, and you served your community.
Right.
You helped your fellow neighbor. You helped, the homeless on the corner. Whatever the situation may be. When you talk about, I don't like the word make America great again, because we're still a great nation. We're still,
And we have the
when the
potential to
water
be
crisis,
again too. And like
what,
warriors like us are evidence of that. But go
well,
ahead.
not only that, but here's the thing. When the water crisis happened, we had the nation. America stood up, answered the call, and came to our rescue. That I will forever be grateful for. That in the most desperate, desolate time of our lives, we were not alone. We were helped. We had trucks from Indiana, California, New York. I mean, we had water bottles coming in from everywhere. But why does it take a damn crisis as the water for people to do what they could do every single day?
Right. It
Every single
shouldn't
day.
take a crisis. It shouldn't take a crisis. We should be doing this
It
every day,
shouldn't
all
take,
by default.
right. It shouldn't take a hurricane. It shouldn't take corruption of a city being poisoned. It shouldn't take this. This should be an everyday act that we do on a regular basis.
Yes, exactly.
What's it hurt
100%.
to reach out? What's it hurt to reach out and say, hey, I know you're having a crappy day, or I know you're struggling. Hey, let me help you. Even taking 5 minutes out of your life
Or even a
to talk to
minute.
somebody.
Or sometimes even a few seconds, like all it takes is somebody to, like, if you see somebody like looks like they're down and out and they're having a shit day, all it takes is one person to make to make them to brighten their spirit. Just there's one person to say, hey, are you okay? Hey, and just listen. Sometimes all you need to do is listen. And I know everybody's got an
Right.
opinion and everybody wants to put their 2 cents in, but sometimes it's important to listen. And you have no idea how much that can change a person's day that's going through it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that might be experiencing this kind of corruption and might even be on the verge of having on being at the breaking point to where your comment or your engagement with that person could save their life. You don't
Yeah,
know. And I've learned in this
exactly.
work that the littlest things can be the source of inspiration for so much change. It only takes a little bit of effort. It really does. The smallest things, folks, pay it forward.
Well, what helped my kids, it was Christmas time after the water crisis, and it was so petty what they got, but it was everything to them. And we made a list because people from all over the country is going, hey, what do you guys want? Not what you need, what do you want? And my kids, it was so weird because it came from Arizona. This old couple, my kids wanted a sleeping bag, like the simplest thing in the world. And my kids got it. And it came in, and I'm telling you, if you would have seen their face. And my daughter got, I forget what the hell she got. Oh, she got a big makeup bag. And she goes, Mom, she said, I know this sounds really ridiculous, and I'll never forget her words as long as I live. She goes, they haven't forgotten us. They do care about us, and they're giving us what we want. But, Mom, will they give us what we need? And I went, what? And she just, floored me. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, if we're ever hungry, would they help us? I was like, where the hell is this coming from, child? And she goes, no, Mom, I want you to answer me. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, if we were ever starving, could we count on America to help us? Or would we starve to death? And I just kind of went, what the hell?
You got a good
That's
point.
an interesting question.
Right.
And I think about it, and I think about this nation, and I think about how many children are going hungry, how many children don't have a blanket to sleep with, or a parent, or somebody they can trust. How precious is the word trust? You know, and I think about the water crisis. I think about the court systems. I think about CPS. I think about all the shit I've endured, and I said, you know what? I should be the most hateful, ungrateful person in the face of the earth for what I've been through, but I'm still trying to figure out how to make it better.
Right.
And
And that's the
thinking
key
about that,
thing
like,
to keep in mind here, folks, is how can we make it better?
yep,
She makes a good point. We always have a choice, first of all, how we react to any given situation. Now, here's a perfect example. You know, it's easy to be reactionary and emotionally reactionary, even more so. But what we all have to, it's our own responsibility to be responsible for our own actions. And on that context, in that context, I want everybody to think. I want just a little exercise. I want everybody that wants to just do this little experiment. Just take a few seconds of your time. Next time you encounter a situation that's very stressful for you or very frustrating, I want you to take 5 seconds, breathe, and then ask yourself, do I have to react in an emotional reactionary way that's going to adversely affect me? And what is your answer to yourself? What answer comes back from your inner voice? And what I want people to realize is we always have a choice, and it's not what you deal with, it's how you deal with it.
exactly. Do you know how many of us could have turned this into a whole nightmare? And yet I mean, the water crisis itself, like, we could have all destroyed shit and, tore shit up, but we didn't. We didn't. We got together and we figured out how to do this the right way. And that's the message that I hope that no matter what anybody goes through, I hope that's the message that gets to your listeners, is if I can go through Hurricane Katrina, corruption that almost destroyed my life, CPS that has ruined my life because I've allowed it to ruin my life, and a water crisis, and I'm still trying to think, is how do I make this better for everybody? Not just me, but everybody.
And in
I'm
defending
not,
each other, we will remain free, folks, and we need to start sticking up for each other on every front like that. And she's absolutely right. How can we make it better? Go ahead.
and sorry, it's just, I should be hateful, and I'm not. And I'm grateful that I was raised the way I was raised, and I'm grateful for people, strangers. The other day, I did not have gas money to get home from my kids' school bus, and this lady literally came out of her pocket and she goes, "I only have $4," and I'm like, "That'll get me home." And I was almost in tears, and she's like, "I'm a single mom and I live in Flint." And I just thought, holy hell, we're still helping each other.
There
But
you
we
go.
need the nation. We need America.
We
We
do. We
need the
really do. We
voices.
need each other
You
to start
don't,
standing up, and we need to be doing this more and not less, folks. You're absolutely right. And it speaks to the character of and the goodness of people that is inherently in people's hearts. And it just goes to show that we are still able, despite all of this corruption, despite everything, still able to do what we need to do on that level to help one another, even with that. You, like you just said it, like that lady didn't have to, but she did because she saw you were in need. And that's a perfect example of what we all should be doing for each other, kind of in any context that we can, really, whether it be a lending an ear, or saying, "Hey, it's going to be okay, we're going to get through this," or, "Hey, is there anything I can do? I see you're having a bad day, what can I do? I'm here. You're not alone in this." Sometimes that's all it takes, the smallest things.
here's another example that I went through, something I experienced. And I want you guys to listen to the story, and I want you to take something from it. Me and my husband were homeless with my daughter, and we couldn't get nobody to help us. Well, during this water crisis, we got a big food stimulus, and we could have kept the money. You know, it was Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I'm like, you know what? Like, we don't need shit. And my husband goes, what are you talking about? And I said, we don't need this money. He goes, are you crazy? And I said, yeah, obviously I think I am. I said, listen, we were homeless. We can go buy $30 hams and still have money left over for us for the month. I said, why don't we just go buy hams for all the shelters? And that's exactly what we did. We loaded up my children, and they were complaining. And I said, let me tell you guys something. I said, just shut up and watch what happens. We went and we dropped off the hams to the men's shelter here in Flint. And I'm here to tell you, they were like, we're running out of food. And I said, well, now you're not. And we unloaded 30 hams, and they were able to eat. I mean, granted, it was a holiday. It was Thanksgiving, but still.
Right.
Then we went on Facebook, and we said, anybody that needs help with food, let us know. And I would have never expected this. There was a guy, he used to be a biker, but he used to be a Navy vet. And he reached out to me. He said, hey, my family's hungry. Can you help us? He didn't mention anything about being a biker or being, you know, a veteran. And I said, you know what? Sure, what do you need? And we literally went and bought everything they wanted for this Thanksgiving dinner. And when we pulled up to their house, it was a trailer. It wasn't even a big house or anything. And I'm like, I look at this motorcycle out there, and I see this big Navy SEAL thing on the door. And I'm like, oh, my God, he's a vet. And we went up there, and the guy goes, how do I thank you? And I said, sir, you sacrificed your life for us.
Yes.
You don't got to thank me. It's my job to thank you.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
if it not for you, I wouldn't have the freedom that I have, and I wouldn't have the fight in me that I have.
Right.
And he broke down. He said, honey, he said, that's the kindest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I said, what? And I broke down, and I started crying, and his kids came up, and his kids are like, why did you do this? And I'm like, because I can. I said, because I wanted to. I said, do you have any other questions? And they're like, oh, our family's got money. I said, maybe your family has money, but this man obviously doesn't. And you should be ashamed of yourself bragging about how you have money while he's sitting here asking on Facebook for food.
Right.
I said, you need to be ashamed of yourself. And I looked at his wife. His wife was just in the corner crying. And I said, no, we're not going to cry. I said, you're going to get up, you're going to make this dinner for your family, and you're going to have a good day. Do you understand me? And she looked at me, and she goes, honey, how do I thank you? And I said, I told you, your husband, you don't need to thank me. I need to thank you. And if I can help feed you for a day or clothe you for a day, fine. Whatever I can do.
Absolutely. Oh my God, that's so powerful. I love that you just said that, like told that story, because it's so true. You know, my uncle was a vet. And before he died, one of the last conversations we had, you know, he was talking to me about this corruption that we're seeing, you know, and and all this, and and he even sees it, and like he's old school, so he didn't know how to use a computer and all that, like not like our generation does, you know. So he knows how to send emails here and there, but he wasn't aware of the whole alternative media fight that's going on. All he knew was that the mainstream was lying out their ass, and from his perspective, nobody was doing anything about it. So he said, he told me what was all of it for? What did I fight for? You know? And I said, Uncle, you may not know this, but my generation's going to finish this. And I explained why, but he said, I hope so. And I said, I know so. And I explained why I made that statement. And I told him what's going on. And I said, you may not realize this, but there is a whole lot of people that are doing a lot of very similar work to the work I'm doing, after I explained to him what I was doing with the News for Us. And I told him, like, look, dude, we got the numbers. Okay. The mainstream is a dying breed. Okay. That's going the way of the dinosaur. Everything that most people get most of their sources of news online today. And with the distrust in the mainstream, this is a perfect opportunity to take it back. But that falls on us, the people, when these corrupt institutions and these corrupt companies, these mainstream companies, are lying. We can clearly see that they're lying, really, and they're really being sloppy about it too, mind you. So I mean, that just makes it more obvious. But there are a lot of people fighting, and my point is, I feel his spirit here with me every day when I'm doing this work, you know, and I had an experience not too long ago, just the other day, putting together this extended timeline. I have to share this because this is so powerful. I consider myself a spiritual person, not a religious, very religious person, but definitely a spiritual person. And I make a fine distinction between the two. But my point is, you know, I used to have my dad passed away 20 years ago. And actually, yesterday was his the 21st anniversary of his death. But he was a chemist in the army during and he was stationed here in the States. And they had to make an Agent Orange during that war, and that's ultimately what killed him was the exposure to that, which he developed an acute form of leukemia. And yesterday, when I was finishing up that extended timeline for the Hilligus case, and me and Kathleen were watching it, and I haven't heard. I used to have dreams every month, at least once a month, that my dad would, that in my dream, he would come to me and I'd say, "Hey, Dad, I thought you were dead." And, you know, he'd say, "Oh, no, I faked my death, son." And it was always the same theme. It was the weirdest thing. I'm convinced that he was talking to me through my dreams, you know, but I hadn't had one of those in over a decade now. And but this is the first confirmation I've had that he's still watching over me. Is when we were watching that timeline and the first dun came on for the first part of it, I heard in my head, in his voice, mind you, and he always used to say this when he was alive as a kid, because I used to read to me the Frog and Toad stories, you know, like Frog and Frog and Toad's Wild Ride at Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's just based on those books. And you know how the judge goes, "Guilty, that is all, that is all." And in my head, when I heard him say "guilty, that is all," and I could see the smile, because he would do that when we would be at the park or throwing frisbee just to make me laugh, you know. And I was like, "Oh wow, he's here too." And I was like, that was powerful for me, you know?
Yeah. People got to understand and realize we're all going to make mistakes. We are human, and we're all going to have sacrifices, whether big or small, and we're all going to have accomplishments that not everybody sees. But
Right, exactly.
you know, I could sit here and be the most meanest, bitter person on the world, but you know what? I look at it like this. If I can help one person and make their life just a little bit easier or do something special for them,
Yep.
you know, if I was to die the next day, I would die okay, because I did something kind instead of something nasty in me.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
if
You got
you
to come
talk
from a
about
place of
making,
love, folks. That's where the difference lies. You have to come from a place of love and compassion. If you cut yourself off from that, you're going to end up going the route of the other thing, and we don't want that as a society. We don't need that. We need kindness, compassion, and respect for one another as well, I think.
well, and that's another thing that a lot of people, you know, they do jobs because they get paid. Okay, that's like your social workers, your CPS workers, your cops, you know, the ones that get the brunt end of the BS, you know. But I'm not defending CPS here. Trust me, I hate them people more than life itself. But anyway,
It's a mixed
you
bag.
know,
You got good people and bad people in all aspects of society, and you know, it's up to us to use discernment to distinguish the two from each other. I think is what it ultimately comes down to.
well, the thing about it is, when you address anybody, and mind you, I was an advocate, and I don't come from a broken home. I did come from, you know, being adopted and what have you. I was adopted. I was left abandoned when I was 5 months old, in a car to die on a carnival lot. That's how I got adopted, and that's how I wound up being, you know, a show owner's daughter, and you know, the whole great life of being wealthy, which is bullshit, by the way. You guys don't think that just because you guys have money, it makes you happy. It doesn't.
No, she's absolutely right. You know, true story.
It can ruin your life.
My father was a doctor, a medical doctor, made over 300 grand a year. You know, growing up, he had $1 million insurance policy that was supposed to go to us when they died. You know, of course, that got fucked over when their parents got divorced. So, but that's another story. But you're right. We had everything growing up. You know, and to be honest, I'm not the person that I was. You know, the person I am today is not the person I was before we lost everything. Like, it humbled me in a lot of ways, and I didn't appreciate the moment, the here and now moment, and appreciate those things like you're talking about, having that, just doing the little things, you know. And I didn't have an appreciation for that before that. But you're right, money does not buy happiness. It can help, It can be helpful to not have to worry or stress about certain things and bills and stuff, but it doesn't buy happiness. You don't need it to be happy. And I found that that's so true because I find fulfillment in my work, whatever it is I'm doing, whether it be researching, writing software, code for an application I'm working on, because that's my main field of expertise, or doing this kind of work, because I know I'm doing what makes me happy, what I love to do, and I don't need money to freaking be happy with that. I just got to be content and happy with myself. And that's all it really comes down to.
Well, it doesn't take much. We're in end of September, getting ready to be in October, and
I know already. The year's almost over already.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And my kids, it was so funny. So of course, parents ask your kids, what do you want for Christmas? Of course, you get all these video games and phones and da. And I looked at them, I said, I got an idea. And they said, what? And I'm like, oh, you're not going to like it, but I don't care. And I said, why don't we adopt a family that's worse off than us? And my daughter, so funny, she goes, who's worse off than us? And I'm like,
right. I can see that. I can totally see that.
People that don't have homes, or need a meal, or just need something.
There's always somebody that's going to be worse off, and you got to, it's important to keep that in perspective. You're right. Go ahead.
So I told her, I said, pick somebody on Facebook that you think deserves something special, and we'll try to make it happen for them. She goes, Mom, I think you've lost your mind. I said, no, I want all of you guys to do that. Y'all are on social media all the damn time. Find a story that touches your heart. Just read it. Just read. She goes, Mom, there's liars out there. I said, I don't care if they're lying or not. Pick something that touches your heart. I said, and this Christmas, we'll see what we can do to make that person, make their dream come true. My son, oh, God help me, he's 14. He's trying to be a rapper. Oh, you know how that goes.
I do. It's okay. It's funny because I've been finding that it takes some skill to be able to rhyme, and hey, anybody that can I got mad respect for them, because I'm a musician by hobby, and I play guitar mostly, but I've been I'm also good with words, and to some extent, but I'm not that great at freestyling, if you will. But I've been working on it, and it's something. It's an acquired skill for me. But I you got to respect anybody that can freaking can put together words like that in such a way where it's like, whoa, that takes skill, and that's so cool. And tell your son that he shouldn't feel so bad about his teeth, because look, I ain't got none either. So well, I shared that with my audience just now. I'm a little bit self-conscious about it, but I don't freaking care. So what?
Why? You know what? It's not about what you look like. It's about what's inside of you. It's about your heart, your soul, because that in the end, God's not going to go, oh, you're gorgeous, you're going to heaven, or whatever your choice of whatever religion,
it's your character, whatever. Folks. It's what makes you who you are. Your appearance, not your outside word or outward appearance. Yeah.
Right. It's what's in your heart and your soul, and you'll be judged by who you were and who you continued to be throughout your life. But anyway, so to get back to the story, my son, he went to a center here that was teaching kids how to rap. They got studio time. It was really cool and stuff. And he goes, Mom, I'm in need. And I said, are you in need? I said, what are you in need of? He goes, I want to meet Eminem. And I said, you know what? You can dream that dream all you want.
You and me both, brother. Tell him I said that, because back in the day, I would have probably wanted to. I mean, that was like my go-to for music back when I was like a teenager and shit.
Right. And I told him, I said, you know what? You dream all you want. I said, but there's a kid out there that may just want a bicycle, or may want, I said, don't ever, I'm not trying to knock your dreams down, but let's be realistic here. Maybe you have a friend that just needs a football, or, has never played with basketball, or, something basic that you guys have access to that others don't. And he goes, but Mom, I'm really in need. I said, well, you can be in need like that all you want, but you need to be a little more kinder. And he looked at me, he goes, Mom. And I said, son. Now, mind you, he's 14. Mm-hmm. So he's that teenage, oh my God.
Right.
And he goes, I got an idea. And I said, oh, God. I said, what's your idea? He
Right, because we're not going to go with the 14-year-old.
goes,
Like that always is not like, okay, what do we got coming now? I get it. I
so
totally do. Go ahead.
he shocked me. He goes, well, why don't we get justice for Flint? And I said, honey, what the hell do you think we've been trying to do? He goes, no, Mom, like, why don't we do a rally on Christmas Day? I said, honey, we're in Michigan, baby. I said, it gets cold as hell up here. Like, it's not warm during the winter. And he goes, but what if we do it in the summer and do it as a late Christmas present? And I said, you might be onto something. He goes,
Right.
but what if we can get Eminem to do it? Or what if we can get these famous rappers? And I started thinking, and I thought, you know what? That's not a bad idea to reach out to all these people, like, even in our own states, get them to do an event, to help people that are really, really, truly, quote unquote, in need.
Yeah.
Do a why don't these people, they get paid so many millions of dollars,
and they
like
have
millions.
They have huge followings too, and if you can get somebody like that to do an event like that, you could bring a lot of help. You could help a lot of people.
Right. And what we all came up with, me and my kids, because there's so much homeless here, we're trying to get where they're tearing down these homes, we're trying to get them to build tiny homes. So if you know of anybody that does the tiny home foundations or whatever, that would be willing to donate one house as an experimental thing, one tiny house, and then the people that do the solar panels, and see if that don't help a Flint resident that's struggling, you know what I'm saying, with bills and stuff, because our bills are like freaking ridiculous. And maybe we can set a trend on, you don't got to have these big ass houses. You don't got to have these fancy ass cars, or you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, stop thinking materialistically as over the top. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that we can set a trend to, instead of building these $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 homes, build these tiny homes. They're just as good. They're actually more efficient.
I was just gonna say that efficiency, yeah.
Yeah, but it might help, and maybe it might start slowing down the poverty rate of and homeless rate of vets. Let's do it with vets.
That makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense to me. If you cut your costs and you are efficient with your funds, and you do it in that way, yeah, you could probably fucking help a lot more people than you could if you're doing these $30,000 homes. You're absolutely right.
Right. So that's what my kids' Christmas thing is. By the way,
tell them I think that's a freaking brilliant idea, and they should totally go for it.
Well, we're gonna try. We're gonna see what we can do, but we don't know where to go or anything. So if any of your viewers know, or they can call you in and let us know.
Yeah, and I could probably do some legwork and see what we can find on the internet. I mean, there's got to be. I mean, other people do these kind of events or things. Maybe we should look into see what we have to do as far as to get something going. As far as what is the, we first probably going to have to look into the local laws and how we go about doing that. Right, same way we would if we were going to do a protest or any other kind of event. Right. So then from there. Okay, yeah, there's a couple angles we can look into for sure, and I think that would be a good positive impact on the community. So you know what? Tell you what, after we end the live, let's see what we can find on it a little bit later. All right, we're gonna probably wrap it up in like the next 10 minutes. We've had a good 2-hour show here. This is a good one. I really like the conversation we're having. No, you're good. You're good. I'm enjoying this. If I was not enjoying this, it wouldn't have gone. I'm like, but I lost track of time. We're having such a great conversation here. It's beautiful. I really think that what you're talking about is perfect. It's exactly what we need to be, how we need to be looking at this,
Hey,
right. Because if we can pull it off, anybody else can.
Right.
Sorry,
go ahead, Kathleen. Hey, I see you're back. Go ahead.
I'm still driving for a couple more minutes, but I don't want to miss out on everything. But because I got on right when you're talking about the water again, I'm saying that the earth, like you mentioned early on, the whole water supply has been polluted because of us people. So when we look at Flint, you're just an example of the rest of the world. How about we have a purification celebration? I've written a lot about that.
I like that idea.
because a baptism is where I was going with it, but the word baptism sounds so kind of offensive.
Well,
It
it
sounds
could
like
be
a
some,
Catholic thing.
but I love, how did you put it just a minute ago?
A purification celebration.
That's beautiful. I love it. I love it.
That is cool.
Because
Yeah.
we are the living body of Christ, and the blood and the water are what we have to honor. We don't
Well, yeah,
pollute
you
our
know,
blood,
and
the
it,
water up there.
it goes back to what, you know, and I know, I don't care if you're Christian, Buddha, whatever, you know, I'm not exactly a, what you know, you're well, what you would consider, like what some most would consider your, you know, Christian, what a Christian is, you know, it doesn't really matter at this point. I think we're all connected in some way, and, you know, it doesn't matter what you believe, but I believe that ultimately we have to be the change we want to see in the world. And, you know, what did Jesus say? He said that these things I can do, you can do, and more with the faith of a mustard seed. And what he was getting at, folks, is that we have to be the change. We have to look within and look within ourselves, and because we all have the ability to affect great change when we are being an inspiration to others and helping others.
Yes.
Absolutely. That sounds
Michigan,
perfect.
that'll be a great place to start, where they had that the Holy Spirit came to the church somewhere in Kentucky, but the water is, if they stopped having the revival is what it was. But Flint, Michigan, as an example of cleaning the water, and you're up in the northern part of the United States, we start there and demand that all the water get cleaned up through there, and have a baptism when yours is clean, or have a prayer and a baptism to clean yours.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Man, you guys are so insightful, and I'm just so great. You know, I feel, you know, it's funny. You mentioned that, you know, you were talking about the vet and how you brought them that Thanksgiving dinner, and they were so grateful. You know, I am grateful for individuals like yourselves for having the courage to tell your stories, because it's humbled me in so many ways just by being here to listen, and it's given me the courage to press forward, because I'm fighting for all of us, you know. And I'm not just, when I'm starting to have self-doubt and start having doubts about my work and stuff, I always look to you guys and how you guys are going through, and how much resolve and courage it must take for you to be able to. And my mother, what happened to my mother? Yeah, that's affected me and helped me, you know, been a big motivator for this fight too. But it always helps keep things in perspective for me, and to always be grateful and humble for having people like you to be able to freaking share their stories, because this is not about me. This is about all of us. This is about the people. This is about those who have been unjustly affected by this corruption, and who really are the ones that are the true victims, namely the children and the elderly in this case, with the CPS and guardianship for corruption. And it's just like, man, I am grateful to have you people like yourselves to be able to have the courage to do this, because it's like, it could be so easy to just give up, you know. And you guys are living examples of that, and I want to say thank you for everything you guys are doing, because if it wasn't for your stories, I wouldn't have no freaking show, and you know, and if it wasn't for your guys' experience, I wouldn't have a show. And then the whole point of here is to allow people to tell the truth, their truth, you know. And truth is subjective, facts are objective, but people have their truth, what you know, from their own perspective, and that's a different thing than truth in the context of what we can prove as far as facts, law, and such and such. But everybody has their truth, which is important, that goes into our free speech, you know. You know, that's why it's important to listen. And I'm just so grateful that you guys, because I know I have a tendency to ramble sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, I know I have my faults. But you guys always help me keep it in perspective, and I appreciate that.
I think
friends are for.
Souls matter and stories count, and that's where the assemblies come in to be the first, before we have the second one. The First Amendment is about coming together to tell our stories, to listen to other stories, and bring the truth and the solutions.
Yep. Exactly. And you know, it's, you know, the freedom of the press was originally intended to act as checks and balances against corrupt officials, and for that very, in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, freedom of the press was meant to be the last vanguard of freedom against that kind of corruption. And, you know, but in our time, we've got the mainstream's bought and paid for. So what do we do in that situation? Yeah, we could freaking sit there and bitch and complain. Oh, well, it's so corrupt, there's nothing we can do about it. Or we can use the tools that we have at our disposal, such as the internet, networks, computers, social media, and do something about it, like I'm
Yep.
doing. We all have that
Yep.
ability. There's no reason we can't. So why are we allowing these bastards to control our lives? There's no reason we should be.
It's like we gave them authority to tell the stories for all of us.
Exactly. That's my point there, folks. We delegated our authority and our sovereignty over to these corrupt institutions. And what have they done with it? They've squandered our trust. It's time to take it back, folks.
Yep. And they promote fear so that we don't tell our stories. But
Exactly.
it's so necessary.
It is necessary. It's
Well-
absolutely necessary. It's essential. It's essential.
Through corruption also comes strength.
Yes.
There are people that
And fortitude.
refuse to be subjected to mankind's cruelty. And there are people that do rise above what anybody thought they were capable of. And that, when you do that,
Yes.
when you find your voice and you find that you know, mine came out of depression, mine came out of fear, mine came out of everything. And I was like, you know what? There's not a daggum thing that they can do to me anymore. They've already done everything humanly possible to break me.
Same here. Same here. Mine came out of a lot of the same as well. Like your story, fear, corrupt, fear, frustration, all that, and then ultimately what you come to realize is, okay, so if this is what's being projected and by everybody else in the world, what can I ultimately do about it? Well, they've already taken everything that I can possibly take from me. I have no more fear in that context. So
yeah.
And when you have that realization that, wait a minute, I'm not afraid anymore. That's when it can be really powerful, folks. And like myself, I'm not living. Look, I didn't have to do the news for us, but I chose to because somebody needed to do something. And I think that by speaking up for each other and having a voice, giving people their voice back from what's been taken because of the mainstream media doing their jobs, I think that's powerful. And when we can start doing stuff like that and becoming positive influences of change, and there are no limits. People like to say the sky's the limit, but I take it one step further. There are no limits.
There is one other thing, that the word is what we're supposed to express our experience in the word and a witness to each other in the word. The word is what produces light. God said, let there be light. So when we call our truths and we call our solutions, then we've got something to work with. But people, if we don't bring the solutions and we only speak to the problem, we're just going to see more of the problem.
Right.
Without a solution.
Absolutely. I mean, we could sit here and talk all day about, help raise awareness about this corruption, till we're blue in the face. But at some point, we need to start talking about solutions, how we move forward to actually do something about it. And so, you're absolutely right. That's so critical. If we don't, then then all we're going to end up doing is sitting in that space of negativity, and that will lead to the victim mentality that a lot of people are stuck in right now. You're absolutely right.
I will say this: when you have hope, you have faith. When you have faith, you have strength. When you have strength, you are fearless.
Yeah.
What's that quote from the Shawshank Redemption about hope? What was it? Does anybody remember off the top of their head? Because that's a really good one. That's one of my by far my favorites, and it's so true. I'm gonna look it up, and then I think we'll wrap it up on that note. I think we had a great show, you guys. This is freaking phenomenal. I'm really enjoying. I mean, we had a lot of viewers today. That's normal, more than the average, for our lives.
I missed too much of it.
It's all right, Kathleen. We're gonna be doing follow-ups with your story, Tabitha, as well. I want to keep on top of this, and because we're always trying to, usually when we do cover these kinds of stories, we like to do follow-ups, and we like to do what I want to do next. I want to have I want to bring up the call-in line for our next show when we cover this, when we have you on, and see if and have people call in, maybe, because I really think it's important that we have the engagement of the community as well. And so I would like to do that, if that's all right with you, if you're open to that.
Oh, I'm fine with it, because
all right, cool.
The more people know what's going on, and the more that they can dig themselves into the Flint water crisis or any issue going on in this country and see it for themselves, then they can make the judgment call whether they want to, speak up and speak out, or if they just want to keep in the shadows and let it just keep happening.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. Man, this is powerful. I love, dude, it's just like, I say, as much corruption as I've witnessed in this coverage and in doing this work, and even before that, I always have hope because I always find those that are willing to stand up and just even if it's only a few of us, all it takes is a few, folks. It's it. It only takes a few courageous individuals speaking out against tyranny to change the course of history, and that's so true.
I hear people say, people got to wake up, stand up, you guys. But nobody's saying stand where. And it's together.
Or stand how, right? And it is, you're right. Where and how is we stand together, united is what ultimately we need to do. And it doesn't matter if we can agree on a solution or not. We all need to agree and present that unified front because the solution ultimately is going to come from that unity.
Yep. Yes. From dialogue.
Look at the water crisis. Well, look at FLINT. Look at the water crisis. Look what we did. We went to Lansing, and guess who joined us? Detroit. And we flooded Lansing. You already have such a big network. You must have those contacts. Well, the problem with FLINT and with the contacts, it became a popularity pissing contest. And I wasn't for that.
Ego always
wasn't about popularity.
It seems like it does, doesn't it?
Well, the thing people got to understand. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What people got to understand, you may not get the accreditation, and that's okay, as long as you met your end goal, and your end goal is to help people recover and help people keep surviving and thriving for a better life.
Yep.
So did those wannabe celebrities get their end result? They didn't, did they?
I hope they all burn in hell.
I'm so sorry.
That's probably the most.
Well, I mean, just I know exactly how you feel. Just look at how like a lot of these celebrities. Like, I mean, I used to have a lot of respect for Arnold Schwarzenegger up until the CV-19 freaking bullshit lockdowns, and then he started to say, "Oh, screw freedom." Well, screw you, motherfucker. Really I'm sorry, but you just lost all and any respect I once had for you and will ever have for you ever again.
Well, and here's another thing. Let's point it out because it's already out there. Dr. Hannah Mona Tiso was one of the quote-unquote doctors that exposed the water crisis. Congratulations. You're a doctor. Why did you need to write a book and say, oh, look with this and look? And good, you put the information out there, but she turned it into, look at me. Everybody's paying attention to me. Instead of paying attention to the problem,
right?
We're paying attention to her.
Like I said, ego always seeks away, and doesn't it? Seems to.
Yep.
Well, that's like Melissa Mays, Leanne Walters, two of the most popular people. Instead of saying, "Hey, I don't want this. I just want to do the right thing. We just need clean water. We need our kids to be healthy and safe. Let's focus on that." It's like, oh, well, I talked to this person. I don't care. You could talk to the President of the United States till you're blowing the goddamn face. If nothing gets accomplished, what the fuck's the point of the conversation? Sorry, I'm cussing again.
Right. No, you're fine. You're saying exactly how many of us feel about it. Like, it's like really like, it's that's justifiable cursing, or rage of because we're just like, well, what do we do? Like, everybody wants to pretend like they're doing something. Oh, look at me. I'm helping people. Well, let me say this: the ones that genuinely are helping people are the ones that don't need to take credit for it and don't take credit for it. Because what was the saying where I think it's a Bible quote. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it has to do with doing the right thing without needing to feel like you have to be recognized for it. If you can, do you know what I'm talking about? There's a quote. I can't remember the exact quote.
Even when no one's looking.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah,
you got it. When no one's looking. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I would really like to work with you on that thing to bring the water to be clean.
Yeah.
That would be a syndrome. Now the water's got to be clean because we're not settling for less.
Right.
The politicians.
Tabitha, me and Kathleen are going to be doing some stuff I'm helping her with some legal aspects for what she's doing. We're collaborating on something. Would you like to stay on with us and maybe we can see what we can all do as a collective, like the three of us. 3 heads are better than 2, and 2 heads are better than 1. So
I like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm up for it.
All right,
Well,
sweet, sweet.
I'm on my phone. I'm going to change over to the
Okay.
laptop. I'm home
Sounds
now.
good. We're
Okay.
about an hour 58 minutes. We had a great 2 hour show. I love it when I love doing 2 hour shows. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I try to do an hour depending on time, but I'm glad we did this full 2 hours because it's so important and we got a lot of good the value out of this conversation, and so much more so than if we would have just stuck to 1 hour. And so I'm grateful for that. And
Yeah, we
I'm
kind of bounced
excited
around
about
too.
making change and doing something about it. Say what? I'm sorry.
So we kind of bounced around too. We didn't like stay focused on one thing.
It
We
doesn't
talked about
matter
many
because we're
aspects of
talking
it.
about a lot of different issues that are interconnected, I think. And I think when
Yeah.
we keep it organic like this, I think people get it more. Like they connect with it more. And like I was getting about don't you'll just be yourself. Don't worry about being emotional. That's important that we show the emotion because people need to know that this is real and people can relate in a lot of ways. And I think that's better than trying to keep to a script. Or I like to keep it organic because it's so important, because these are your guys' stories. These guys this has affected you, affected us, affected all of us. And people need to see that it is real and that hey, where others are going through this too.
Well,
Possibly
I
when
will
I
say
come
this.
back. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Kathleen. You're fine.
Possibly when I switch over to my laptop, maybe we could take notes to see the fine points of what these last 2 hours were
I
that
love
I
it.
was missing. And
Yeah.
and 20-minute sets on each thing would be a really good idea.
That's a
with
great
a
idea.
solution, with the solution and a contact place.
Let's do that. I think that'd be a great plan for tonight's meeting after the show. I think that's a good solid starting point, Kathleen. Let's do that.
Goosebumps. Good. All right, I'll be on the laptop. I'll be there in a
Sweet.
minute.
All right, folks. We're going to wrap up the show right now. But we're going to be we're going to be doing more coverage on a lot of different things in the weeks to come. We're going to be covering more of the Hilligus case. We're going to be covering more of Tabitha's story. We're going to be talking to Larry Baker this upcoming week and get him more of his story out. So we have a lot of good coverage coming, folks. Keep with us. Stay tuned. We're gonna hopefully help show everybody how we can all create solutions to this corruption. Instead of just talking about the problem, we're going to create solutions, and we're going to help you understand how we can take tools that we all have at our disposal, namely the computers in the palms of our hands, our smartphones, and what we can all do with that simple tool to create effective solutions of change. And by doing, whether it be, hey, are you okay? Hey, you're not alone in this, to somebody that's in need or that looks like they need somebody to listen, or whether it be doing what you're doing, Tabitha, when you told your kids, let's help somebody else that's less fortunate this Christmas, or this Thanksgiving. And it's so just the small things that can make such a big difference. And we're dedicated to helping people advocate for themselves, empowering themselves with the tools that they can use for themselves. But we don't seek to be the arbiter of truth here. We seek to give you the tools to become the change, folks. And that's what we're all about here. And I love that we're doing this work. I feel so blessed. So I want to say thank you, Tabitha. And I couldn't be more blessed to be able to be fighting with people of such integrity. And I feel that in every fiber of my being.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate the time to get our story out, and hopefully it can open people's eyes to the truth.
Yes.
Whatever
absolutely.
that looks like in their eyes.
Yeah, whatever that truth may be. And that's different for everybody, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it because everybody has a different perspective, but we can all get value from hearing each other's stories and each other's perspectives. We don't have to agree on all of it, but there are things we can give and take. You have to take what serves you, what works for you, and leave the rest behind, folks. And that's ultimately what it comes down to in anything that we in life.
And be kind to each other. It's worth it.
Of course. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff in the upcoming next couple of weeks and months. We have an app coming down the line. I'm going to be working on that hopefully a little bit this week for people. And I think we're going to integrate like a kind of a legal tool system. I want to integrate into the News4Us app that we're going to be streaming on, allow people to stream from. But I'm also going to integrate a legal kind of tool for people to look up legal precedent. And I think we're going to in some way integrate something similar like Google Scholar into it. I want to give people tools to help them with the legal process that I'm sure a lot of people have trouble understanding, but I think if we do this way, it's going to be fun and it'll be empowering for people. And I think it'll help them do something proactive. And I think that's going to be exciting because this has not been done before, at least not that I know of. All right. Good night, everybody. And that's what we have to look forward to. So just stay tuned. We got a lot of exciting things coming. And I'm very grateful and appreciative of our viewers and everybody that's been supportive of this. I'm so grateful. I mean, we couldn't have grown without you guys and without you people like you, Tabitha, and having the courage to speak out. So with that being said, good night. And we'll be back in real soon, I think, too, folks.